What's up everyone, welcome to the Surfside PPC YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over affinity and custom affinity audiences that are available across the Google Ads network, specifically for display, search, and video campaigns. The only limitation that you're going to have targeting these audiences is if we come over here to audience targeting, you aren't able to target custom affinity audiences at this time in your search campaigns. However, you can target both of them for display campaigns, and if we come down here to the bottom, both of them for video campaigns. So what are affinity audiences? I put together a couple of notes here. You're reaching users based on their interests and their habits. So you're looking at broad interest groups and you're targeting people based on some of the interests that they have. And these are general interests. They're not things they're actively researching. They're things that their browsing history and their search keywords in the past have shown what they're interested in. It's good for advertisers with large budgets that want to drive brand awareness and product awareness. It's not going to be the best for driving conversions. And affinity audiences were actually created by Google Ads, and they're meant for advertisers to enhance their TV advertising budget. So they're definitely more meant for larger brands that are running TV ads, so you can match your TV ads across the Google display network. If you're going to use them, I would recommend building your own custom affinity audiences unless you have something that's absolutely perfect for your brand. So what I'm going to do next is go over some of the different affinity audiences that you can use, and then I'm going to go over how to create custom affinity audiences. So if we come over here to Google Ads, and right now I'm in a display campaign, I'm just creating a new ad group in a display campaign. When you come down here to audiences and you go over to browse, you're going to see one of the options here are affinity and custom affinity. So let's take a look at some of the affinity audiences you can use that are pre-built and available in every single Google Ads account. So you're going to see banking and finance, beauty and wellness, food and dining, home and garden, lifestyles and hobbies, media and entertainment, news and politics, shoppers, sports and fitness, technology, travel, and then vehicles and transportation. Now, one thing to know about affinity audiences is they're going to be very broad. So if I come over here to travel, you're going to see a very broad group, business travelers. So you're reaching people who frequently travel for business, typically by air and over several days. If you're going to see impressions weekly here, 10 billion to 1 trillion weekly impressions means you're reaching a very large audience. That's a huge amount of impressions that are going to be available for you across the Google Display Network. So if you choose business travelers here, that means you're reaching people that have shown based on their browsing history, that have shown based on the different locations they are, that they're most likely to be business travelers. So looking at a few different examples, let's just go to shoppers real quick. So we'll go to shoppers, click on the drop down. You're going to see bargain hunters, luxury shoppers, shopaholics, value shoppers. So you can find different people depending on the types of products they generally purchase. Someone who's in the luxury shopper category is probably visiting websites that sells products that are going to be much more expensive than someone who are bargain hunters or value shoppers. So we'll come up to the top and look at a couple more here. So let's just say we want to look at home and garden. So for my examples, I generally use my website farmhousegoals.com. So what I would do is I would come in here to home and garden, and now I don't really ever target affinity audiences for my own brands just because I don't have a large enough paid advertising budget to see that it's worth it for me. Couple of options here, do-it-yourselfers and home decor enthusiasts. So if I do want to reach people maybe with some DIY farmhouse projects, then do-it-yourselfers might be a decent audience to target. The problem is there's just going to be so many impressions here. I'm going to reach so many people that are going to have no interest in creating farmhouse do-it-yourself projects. They might be interested in kids projects or other types of projects that have nothing to do with farmhouse decor. So these are a lot of the different affinity audiences that are built in. In food and dining, you're going to see coffee shop regulars, fast food cravers. So for example, maybe a brand like Taco Bell or Pizza Hut or something like that, if they're running a large national TV advertising campaign, then they can mirror that using this fast food cravers audience because you're reaching a large group of people that have shown they tend to eat fast food more often than others. So that's the best way to look at affinity audiences. And now the other option you have is you can create custom affinity audiences. You can do this through the campaign building process, or if you go to your tools and settings, and then you come down to shared library and open up Audience Manager. So I'm going to open up this now. What you can do in Audience Manager is come over to custom audiences, and this is where you can create custom intent or custom affinity audiences. So I already have one created. So if you're creating one, what you want to do is add at least 5 items for interests, URLs, places, or apps. So here's an example of one that I created for farmhouse goals. So you're going to see I found some apps related to farmhouse furniture, farmhouse decorations, decor ideas, And then I added some of these larger websites, Birch Lane, Jocelyn Main, and Wayfair. This is probably going to end up making it a little bit too broad. So what I could do is just use these apps that are really geared towards farmhouse decor. And then under interests, you're essentially just adding different keywords that are going to be relevant to people's interests. So one of the interests that I can add here, we can come to interest. I can just do farmhouse DIY. Do enter, and now that's going to be an interest that's added. I have 24 total items, and Google Ads is going to use all of these items to build an affinity audience that I can target. We keep coming down, you're going to see URLs. So with URLs, I entered my own website and then some of my different competitor websites, large and small. So some really large competitors like Country Living that wouldn't consider me a competitor, but other ones like Antique Farmhouse and Farmhouse Fresh Home, websites that are similar to mine. I can click on save. And then when you come over to your display ad group and you come to affinity and custom affinity audiences, you're going to see custom affinity here. And the one that I just created, I can now target. Okay, so what you're going to see here is it's a little bit more targeted than some of the other affinity audiences with 10 billion plus impressions. 1.1 billion is still a lot of weekly impressions. It's showing that I am reaching a large group of people, but it's going to be more narrowed down by people who have an interest in farmhouse decor. And I can probably narrow it even further if I do get rid of some of those things like Wayfair and Jocelyn Main in apps. So you can create your own custom affinity audiences as you're building your display campaigns. It's going to look the same way it does in Audience Manager. So you just name it, you enter at least 5 interests, URLs, places, or apps. And then as you enter all those, you click on create and you can target them just like the one I have targeted here. Now, the last thing I want to go over is the way that I look about these different audiences in terms of a funnel, in terms of driving conversions versus trying to reach new customers and doing prospecting and brand awareness. So if you're looking at the very top here, these are going to be the best options. If you're just trying to drive brand awareness, affinity and custom affinity audiences is what I would recommend about in terms of these options above here. If you're trying to drive conversions, you want to go with things like in-market audiences, custom intent audiences, or similar audiences. And then down at the very bottom, people who have already interacted with your business or people who have already either purchased from you or given you some of their information like their email, their name, their zip code. Customer match and remarketing audiences are always going to perform best in Google Ads. However, you can use affinity and custom affinity audiences in your display campaigns and your video campaigns if you do want to reach a really wide audience and you're trying to drive more product and brand awareness. You can also incorporate affinity audiences in your search campaigns with the option to bid higher or lower on people who are in a specific affinity audience. So if you have any questions about affinity audiences, please leave them in the comment section. Just remember, you're reaching users based on their interests and habits. So their broad interests and habits. So someone who's a fast food craver might have no interest in a specific type of fast food restaurant, but you are going to reach a lot of people who are not going to be totally relevant to what you're promoting. So I wouldn't recommend it for driving conversions. I think it's much better if you're trying to drive that brand awareness like I've talked about. So if you have any questions about affinity audiences and custom affinity audiences, please leave them in the comments section. Thanks for watching my video today, and make sure you subscribe to the Surfside PPC YouTube channel.